Hey everyone, this is Chirag Joshi. Welcome to episode 3 of the EQ show. Now you might be wondering why I'm wearing this cap. It's because it's the month of October in Bangalore and it's pretty clear skies and it's hot. That's why I'm wearing this. Yeah. Anyways, let's get into the show. Just a fun fact about the number 3 is it's my dad's lucky number and he tries to do as much as possible with the number 3. Yeah, I didn't know. Did you know about this? No, right? Yeah, that's a fact. Let's get it. Ooh, okay. Aha, this is a fun one. Awesome. So as you can see in this post, it's kind of a very minimalist post, right? There's this HP logo on one side, and there's a battery on the other, and there is this like loop sort of thing showing infinity, but that's not the aim. So what we try to represent through this post was that HP, the petrol pump giant in our country, has announced or has shown interest in setting up battery swappable stations across all of its petrol pumps in India. So that's what we wanted to show through this. It was now this is the continuation of the we put out a video saying what's the future of petrol pumps. Now while every other sort of oil and gas major announced setting up charging stations, HP happened to be the only one to set up or announce swappable stations, and that was kind of an interesting move from them because swappable stations of course make sense right now when the charging times are too high, right? It takes about 1 hour or half an hour to charge. Swappable on the other hand takes just about as much as fueling your current petrol bikes, right? So that was an interesting thing that we found, and we were actually confused if what was the best way. Was it setting up charging stations on petrol pumps, or was it setting up swappable stations? So from all of the feedback that we got on our Instagram, if you aren't on it, please get on it. That we got on Instagram, we figured out that the space in a petrol pump that exists is both a positive thing and a negative thing. Positive in the sense that you have ready space to set up any of these stations. Negative in the sense that when you're talking charging against fueling, you're talking about any of these vehicles staying under or in the premise of these petrol pumps for quite some time, right? But when it comes to swappable, you're spending just as much as time as fueling it. So that probably solves the negative aspect of of having a charging station or a swappable station in the premise of a petrol pump. So yeah, that was what this post was about, and hopefully it sort of put that message out. This is another meme thing that we put out. So as you can see, we've used the popular Batman and Batman slapping Robin meme, this is my personal favorite. It's too funny. Like the memes that come out of it are too funny. So we decided to use that. So what you can see, I mean, like as you can see in in Robin's speech bubble, he sort of says that EVs aren't useful because they use electricity generated from dot dot dot. And before he completes his sentence, Batman gives him a tight slap. So, so the idea of this post basically was that on our page, while we're trying to build this community around sustainability and all of that, we get a considerable amount of people coming and telling us that what, electric vehicles aren't eco-friendly, they do nothing. In fact, some people come and say they're worse than the existing petrol vehicles out there. And their major sort of argument is that how can electric vehicles be sort of eco-friendly when the electricity that they consume is generated from coal or other means, which is a right and a fair argument, but it's only half. Okay, that's why Batman says, STFU, you naive kid, right? Is because the other part of that statement is that as we speak right now, right, the government has two plans. One of them is that it has to it has to put out 30% of all of these vehicles on road as electric. On the other hand, it also has an ambition of, having 30% of all the electricity generated in our country through renewables, be it hydro, be it solar, be it wind, whatever, right? So 30% of all of electricity generated by 2030 is going to be renewable. So that means that we won't ever encounter a situation where the adoption of EVs happens so fast that our energy generation systems don't sort of develop and upgrade. And it actually becomes a scenario where we're pumping out more coal or burning more coal to generate that electricity to provide for our for these additional electric consuming vehicles on road, right? So that situation will not occur because of the simultaneous efforts of the government and all of the people involved in it, right? That was the reason for this post, because most of the people have this argument. It's not just in our country. In fact, some people sent me sort of snapshots from LinkedIn, and this is about people back, I think, in the US or UK somewhere, where they had similar arguments, right? Now, I'm not sure about their country, but I can tell about our country. So this is a very popular argument amongst those who do not sort of believe in the idea of EVs and just think it's a hype, it's a fad, it's just a trend, it's going to go away, etc., etc. Which is sad, because we're living through this transition. It will happen, believe it or not. But I mean, like, this was sort of a post that we want to put out that sort of address that issue. Again, we used a meme format because that resonates well with people, and we've seen that continuously on our page. So yeah, that was the message. So if anyone comes to you and says, "Hey, blah 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 blah," I think this should be a reaction to them. Awesome. So, do we have some questions?
So, do you think the EVs that exist at the moment
Hmm.
are appealing enough, like based on the looks?
Appealing enough. Okay. So see, right? So EVs, that at least in our, even globally, 10 years back, or even I think with the advent of the 21st century was when we started looking at EVs in a way, and they sort of coming out in some smaller form or shape. Nothing serious until Tesla came along. Everyone knows that, right? The first wave of EVs to hit the world and this country, right, were these cheaply built sort of EVs that were toyish in nature, that weren't serious commuting vehicles. And I agree, yeah, because their cost was low. It was not as a primary mode of transportation. It wasn't aimed for that, and also people sort of went ahead with that, right? But over a period of time, they sort of faded away. There was a time when I think 2011 or 2012, where the country sold around more than a lakh electric vehicles in our country. Yeah, I mean, we don't have those numbers right now. We're not even close, right? Two wheelers, I think so. And that was just 1 year. After that, it started again falling back because people started naturally comparing them to petrol counterparts, right? And they were nowhere close. Maybe they didn't aim to, or they just weren't good enough at that time. But now, so much time has passed. It's almost a decade since all of that yo bike stuff happened. Now, that perception of electric vehicles still continues to exist, but there I can give examples of companies who are just redefining every element of building an electric vehicle out there, and they've come out with some of the most gorgeous products out there, very seriously built, better than a lot of the petrol counterparts out there.
If you
Yeah.
were to rate them, what would it be like?
But it depends. I mean, like, we have to go through. I mean, I think electric vehicles are, better designed, I guess, because there's a influx of all these smaller startups who need to get everything perfect to get to that stage and compete with the older companies and bigger companies, because they can afford to not pay so much attention to all of this stuff, right? But these smaller companies can't. So I guess companies like Ather or even a Tesla, or all of these guys, their pitch isn't electric. Their pitch is a better vehicle altogether. So they have to think about all of those things. So I'd rate, and I'd say that electric vehicles are way better designed than what exists. It's just that the perception of people still sort of is caught up there, and they're yet to experience all of this. So yeah, I
So,
think.
have they come up with their own new age design, or is it, you know, whatever's in trend right now?
See, couple of things there. See, when we're talking about this new age of sort of renaissance of EVs, back in the first wave that didn't happen. Now is the second wave of EVs to hit the country and the world in a way, right? What's happening is there's this third element, which is of smart, intelligent feature that exists in EVs, right, in electric vehicles, which helps in security, which helps in connected transportation. So there's this entire connectivity thing that's playing a huge and massive role in these newer cars, because they see that as a competitive advantage than what previously exists. Like at this moment, as we're speaking, Ather Energy, which is a 1.25 lakh scooter, has more software features than probably a Swift Desire, right? Yeah, yeah, right. So I mean, they're clearly banking on all of these smart solutions, and it's because of, our phones have evolved so fast in the last decade, which wasn't at the disposal of the first wave of startups or EV companies that wanted to do something in the space. So they're using that to their advantage, and they're integrating all of these things from, different standpoints. I don't think anyone who's trying to build a company in the space right now is looking at, oh, you know what, we'll design, manufacture, and sell. Like the ones that are really serious, like Ather or Ultraviolet or 22 Motors, all of these guys, right? They're really putting thought in terms of an ecosystem, in terms of design, in terms of user friendliness, just a host of things. They're thinking of the whole package and not just a vehicle. So I guess there's a lot of thought being put in, a lot of thoughtfulness coming into the whole automotive and mobility game, because the conversation is shifting from vehicles to mobility, right? And yeah, I think there's a lot of thought being put there. Awesome. Yep, we've come to the end of episode 3. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, this cap is no longer needed now because the clouds have come. And yeah, so if you enjoyed the episode, if you think you could have sort of represented the topics that we spoke about in a better way, feel free to reach us out with your artwork. And all of you watching this, I want all of you to share it with one creative friend of yours, so that his imagination can spark some sort of creative post which can spark the imagination of, I'm not sure how many people, right? That's what we need. Keep asking questions, and I'll see you in the next one. See you.